finally, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania is out on Disney Plus, so I decided to check it out this week and ask my good friend Aaron Sparrow to go back and check it out a second time so we can review it here on the channel. How you doing, Aaron? Are you mad at me?
Why do you do this to me? Am I the new Doc? Are you just heaping abuse on me?
We're doing it for the viewers. It's not for me. I didn't want to do this.
I hope people understand the sacrifice that we're making here, because man, this was a rough one.
I will give it this. Quantumania really lives up to the hype. Like, it sucks. I can see why less people decided to show up at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for the opening weekend after seeing this movie and be like, maybe they might just never make a good movie again in the MCU.
It certainly felt that way all through Phase 4 and, of course, Quantumania kicking off Phase 5. It just certainly felt like the party's over, guys. This is just sad now. This is the band is just playing way past their prime, and maybe it's just time to wrap it all up.
Well, the good news is the writer of Quantumania, who was supposed to write one of the upcoming Avengers movies, The Kang Dynasty, I believe, Jeff Loveness, who I also believe is a writer on Rick and Morty, had already been removed from the Avengers project even before the writer's strike. I think they had realized just how bad the script for Quantumania is, and it is bad. Like, that dude deserves to be fired.
That's but like the idea that Rick and Morty writers who were going to come in and treat this source material with respect and not do everything they can to kind of subvert it and make fun of it. Yeah, make fun of it is just was just a bizarre idea on its face. And I think it's just kind of the insular Hollywood thinking. We see these reports come out where they're talking about how, we don't want people who know the source material. We don't want people who, we try to avoid people that know the comics so that they just come in fresh and do something, fresh and new. Well, when that thing that's fresh and new is just making fun of your properties and making people feel stupid for liking them, coming in and there's a lot of people talking about how terrible MODOK is in this movie, and he's absolutely god awful. And people are like, well, MODOK was always a stupid character. No, MODOK wasn't a stupid character. MODOK was a body horror character, and he was pretty intimidating, and he was pretty horrifying. Dangerous when he was introduced, and he was written by people like Mark Gruenwald in Captain America. When you saw him portrayed in that way, he's nobody's favorite character necessarily, but he's a character that people like. They like to see him as a villain. And when you come in and you're just like, he's got a big head, he's a complete joke, and you do all your little hee ha ha, don't be a dick, just the level of writing is just the level of imagination, the level of writing, the level of thinking that went into this film is almost non-existent.
What's interesting about the movie, and we can't really go into the plot in detail because that's like a 2-hour video with everything wrong with the plot, is once they leave the world and they go into the quantum realm, which I understand has different sets of rules, although I don't believe it has any sets of rules after watching this movie. It's like going to Wonderland if you're Alice. Stuff happens because stuff needs to happen, and you could tell there was no kind of rules or restraints or restrictions on the writer, and he's just doing Rick and Morty scripts throughout the entire quantum realm stuff, so it ends up just being really distracting to any kind of plot sense that they're trying to make during the movie. I hated every minute of it. I like literary nonsense. I like Alice in Wonderland. I like Through the Looking Glass and all that stuff. And it has a place, and it's a lot of fun. But it doesn't make sense in the MCU at all.
No, it doesn't. Wonderland, the idea of this nonsensical world, that's the overarching concept, is that it is nonsensical. The problem is when you're doing a movie like Quantumania, when you're trying to establish this new world, your new world has to have rules. There have to be stakes. You have to understand what the rules of the universe are so that you understand what the stakes are. You understand what the dangers are. And this is just all sort of like a bunch of nonsense thrown at the wall. And that works for Rick and Morty. It's very, effective in Rick and Morty because Rick and Morty essentially is a nonsense show. It's a show where anything can kind of happen. But trying to do that in the MCU while also trying to establish Kang as this major threat that's going to move forward into the rest of the universe, it doesn't work. You can't play that irreverently with something that's supposed to be the building block of your entire phase.
Yeah, there's a couple of examples that I'll give just real quickly. Like, there's a Blob character that's really interested in Scott Lang because he has holes. He wants to know how many holes he has. Eventually, he gets shot, so he has his own holes. And because of that, he can now eat people. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. I thought when Ant-Man became a giant, he had to have the mask on. Otherwise, bad stuff would happen. But he's removing the mask while he's a giant. Why would he be able to become Giant Man in the quantum realm itself? Why would he even be able to shrink if he's in the quantum realm. He's already subatomical at that point. You have to think about this stuff and make it make sense for the quantum realm itself.
No, don't think about it, Wes. Just consume. Just, like if we keep everything moving too fast, like, it's like Rise of Skywalker. It just moves so quickly that you don't even have time to think about anything before you're already on to the next third thing. And that's the way that this movie was constructed. And unfortunately, that's the way a lot of the MCU has been constructed since Endgame. It's just been a lot of stuff just thrown at you really quickly. And it's like, don't think about it. Just here you go, monkey. Just eat the slop, you pigs.
Yeah, so the plot itself is bad, and I don't like the quantum realm, the way it's portrayed. At the beginning, it kind of looks good, like the CGI is good. And then when Evangeline Lilly shows up, we have the worst CGI in the history of the world. Worse than Henry Cavill's mustaches or haircut in this goddamn movie. Oh! And then when we see MODOK, it feels like the CGI goes down enormously just across the board, and it looks bad.
As soon as his mask opens up and you see, Darren Cross's stupid face, like that's the moment where it's like I'm completely now checked out of the reality of this movie. I'm already annoyed because you recast a really good actress that you had for Cassie in Endgame, and for some reason you recast her as this new girl, and you made her an activist, and you made her a scientist, like the 16 other new characters that you've introduced. The relationship that we were all invested in, with his character and his daughter, and the cute little actress they had that played his daughter in those first two films. That's all lost, and now you even replaced the adult actress that was really good in Endgame with this girl for some reason, and she's just absolutely awful. And then the way her character is written is absolutely awful. And the fact that they make her an activist, so she's immediately annoying. You're immediately on edge with her. And then, her big moment is when she tells MODOK, she defeats MODOK, so now he's a joke. And then her big moment is telling him, he's like, well, what should I be? And she's like, don't be a dick. Yeah. Just don't be a dick. You can always choose not to be a dick. And that's the big catalyst for his character, is someone told him not to be a dick. And then they think it's so hilarious. He shows up at the end and his line is, my name is, whatever the hell his name is in the movie.
Darren, and I'm not a dick.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not a dick. My name is Darren and I'm not a dick. Okay,
so
great.
The thing that I think really fails, even more than the plot, I do believe, is the characterization throughout the movie. I like Paul Rudd. I think he's a wonderful actor, and he's extremely charming. He's easily likable. As soon as he shows up in the movie, and I don't believe Ant-Man should be treated with the reverence of a Captain America or a Black Panther or some of the really, really powerful characters in the MCU that have been more focal points than him. But for everyone in his family to just laugh at him and mock him and tell him that he's never done anything, and then make fun of him for writing a book about saving the entire galaxy. He is the entire focal point of saving the galaxy. He's the one that returns to the quantum realm and figures out time travel for everybody. You can't do it without Ant-Man. And then for them to just treat him like shit, it pissed me off so bad.
No, it's another case of them undercutting the heroic male lead so that they can try to build up these other characters. But the one thing that these writers don't seem to understand, they don't seem to understand, is that when the hero has to be cut down so you make the other characters look better, what have you really accomplished? It's like Mick Foley has a famous story about, like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to wrestle this guy and I'm going to talk about how old he is. And when he walks past the graveyard, undertakers chase him, try to bury him, and that'll be a good thing. And the old veteran told him, if you do that, you're not gonna make yourself look good. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, we're going back and forth. And he had to explain the psychology of it. And it works for writing as well. Wrestling, writing, there's a lot of things, a lot of parallels in these kind of fictions. Where he told Mick, if you bury me and then I beat you, you look like dog shit. If you bury me and then you win, what did you accomplish? Because you told everybody I was dog shit. So exactly. That's the same thing that you do with these heroes. You're going to try to build up these female heroes by making the male heroes look bad, but all you do is make them try to make them look slightly better than a hero that you've made look pathetic.
Yeah, so I did not like that, although I do think Paul Rudd put in a pretty decent performance, and when he got the time to shine, I think he did the best he could with the script that was at hand. The real problem is the daughter. As you mentioned, she's aged way up. They get this really annoying actress. She's an activist, and she's smarter than everybody. Why is anyone smarter than Hank Pym? He's supposed to be the smartest guy in the goddamn Marvel universe. And she's created a device that can map out the entire quantum realm. And Hank Pym's like, oh man, I couldn't even have done that. She did it in the basement because she's so goddamn smart. And of course she has to be perfect. And I hated every moment of their relationship. Like I'm glad he missed 5 years with this person because she's awful.
Well, we need more women in STEM, apparently. So, we have to make every character in phase 4 to 5 of the MCU, every young female character has to be a genius that outshines the people that have made all these discoveries. Oh yeah, she read my book and now she's smarter than me. It's the Jurassic Park problem. It's like you stood on the shoulders of giants and you took the next step. You didn't ask if you should or if you could, and you shouldn't be able to. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's all MacGuffins. It's all plot device. There's no real construction or no real evolution of any of the things that have come before. It's just say that this is a thing. Say she's a genius. Say that she created this device. Say that she she can map the entire quantum realm so that we can get the plot moving. Just watch it, enjoy it. Just get ready for the next thing. Hey, Jonathan Majors is incredible until he gets into some legal trouble, possibly, and then he's not. We're not talking about how incredible he is anymore. Even on the red carpet, we were all juggling his balls the whole time. It's just none of this matters. It doesn't matter. We'll
talk about Jonathan Majors here in a few minutes. Let's talk about Evangeline Lilly first. I don't know what she does in the movie, and I don't believe she plays a vital role in the movie whatsoever, other than being like the Wasp part of the title character. But her haircut is so awful that I don't know. It just distracted me from everything. Once I saw the haircut, I couldn't take my goddamn eyes on it. I don't even know what she said.
No, she didn't do anything in the movie. She
shows
up,
I didn't miss anything.
Hank Pym doesn't show up, and he doesn't do anything except you get a line in about socialism because we always got to be pushing that agenda. Isn't it weird that we're getting lines about socialism from a company that is trying to merchandise every single thing on the planet? There's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, so that stuff was weird. And you talk about Michael Douglas, they got Michelle Pfeiffer here. Two very great actors. And Michael Douglas, I will say, is one of the best actors of his generation. And you're right, they don't really even use him. The only time they do anything is this really weird cameo from Bill Murray that has nothing to do with the movie. It doesn't drive the plot forward. It doesn't really do anything whatsoever other than to say that Janet Van Dyne, when she was in the quantum realm, was banging Bill Murray. And it's uncomfortable when they're talking about it in code in front of Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, even though he knows exactly what he was talking about.
We had to inject some of that trademark trash Marvel humor.
I like Bill Murray, but this was awful. It was so stupid.
No, it was absolutely terrible. It's absolutely pointless. It was just we got Bill Murray because we could. Again, does it make any sense? No. Does it make any sense that Lizzo and Jack Black are in Star Wars? No. But we could do it, so we did. It's just all stimulus response. Just don't think about anything. Just feel the mild sensation of viewing things on screen.
Yeah, so that part was awful. And like I said, those two actors don't really do anything. Neither does Evangeline Lilly. The one character that does some stuff, and I have some problems with Jonathan Majors in this movie. I think King he's got a presence to him. He certainly had it at the very end of Loki. This is supposed to be the really big, bad version of King that all the other Kings are scared of. They've actually sent him to the quantum realm. They stranded him there, so he can't go out there and destroy all the timelines and destroy everything because he's that destructive. So when you see he and Michelle Pfeiffer together in the brief scenes that they are together, and he comes off as really sympathetic, you got to work with me. We want to get back to our families. And I thought it was a really good con. I thought she was doing the Hans Gruber act, like from the Die Hard movie, where he gains the trust and he lets Bruce Willis help him out a little bit. But once he figures out who he really is, he becomes this really energetic, charismatic bad guy. And you get to really see the real face of Hans Gruber. I thought we were going to get this with King this time. And he's still this depressed, lazy, lame ass, fuck. You're just some sad sack shit. No one would ever fight with you because you look depressed.
The fatal flaw in his plan, Wes, was that he had technology from Doctor Strange's memory store in his ship that revealed his whole plan. If he had gone from that point of being very sympathetic and very trying to get people on his side, and then he doesn't even have to become very threatening or things like that. But if he just went cold, once he's revealed
yes.
and he just went cold, he would have been so much better. And that's one of the things you need to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because that actor's performance as the High Evolutionary is what Kang should have been. If they just slotted in the High Evolutionary as the villain, for the next thing. I mean, I'm not seeing any more Marvel movies. I'm done. I tapped out at Guardians because I want to go out on a high note. But if they just slotted him in, he would be so much infinitely better. You can't have writers from Rick and Morty come on and expect them to write real compelling characters. They write goofy cartoon characters, and that's what you're going to get. So, he ends up being a cartoon. His performance is what it is. I think he's a great actor. But, there's just nothing to nothing to sink your teeth into. This is a lot of great actors in a film that ultimately means nothing.
And there's only a couple of moments that I would even consider good, and I think most of this movie's bad. I would say this movie is worse than Thor: Love and Thunder, which I thought was atrocious, because at least the first 8 minutes of Thor: Love and Thunder was great. When I saw the opening of it, when you meet Gore and what's happening, and he's mocked by the gods and his daughter dies, you're like, oh my goodness, what a great intro to a movie. You don't even get that in this movie. There's like two moments. I thought the moment when the telepath was with the big strong lady, the warrior lady, and they're like, what are the codes? And the guy says, I'll never tell. And his little headlights up, and he tells her the code. I was like, oh, wow, that works. And I think that was pretty clever for this movie. And then there's another moment where the laser head guy decides he's going to shoot Kang with his laser head, and he like swirls the laser around him and then pushes it back at him and explodes his head. And I was like, well, that was actually pretty well done. That looked kind of cool. But otherwise, there's not a good second in this movie.
Do you realize how insignificant those two moments that you pointed out as the good moments are?
Yes.
Like they're just, it's so small. This movie is an absolute slog. Now, Thor: Love and Thunder, like you're gritting your teeth through the whole thing because it's so painful. Wakanda Forever, like I was just like trying to stay awake because it's so long and so boring.
Angela Bassett was owning that thing when she was on screen, though. At least you get a good performance.
Yeah, you get a good performance from her. You know, there's at least some, there's a heartfelt tribute to Chadwick Boseman in there.
Absolutely.
Which, ultimately ends up feeling cynical because they used it to market the movie and make money. But there's things in there that there's good takeaways. I don't feel like there's any good takeaways in this. Sitting through this a second time, the best thing I can say about it is I started thinking about the Micronauts and how much I like the Micronauts and how much I wish there was a good Micronauts movie as opposed to watching Quantumania. By the way, also a stupid ass title. Quantumania.
It really was a dumb title.
It just shows you right away you're not taking this seriously.
So what is the future with Jonathan Majors? Obviously, he was cast as Kang. He's got some screen presence. He's got a little gravitas, especially in Loki. I think he's underutilized and misused in this particular movie. But he is the big bad for the Avengers that are coming up. Whatever these new iteration of the Avengers are going to be, they're going up against the Kang dynasty. Now, because there's so many variants of him or whatever, I guess you could recast him or whatever. After this movie, since this is the very bad version of Kang, can he even be the big villain? He was just defeated by the Wasp and Ant-Man and his daughter.
And a bunch of ants. Don't forget the ants.
Oh, God. Don't get me started on the ants, man. That was really bad.
Don't forget, he was defeated by socialism, Wes. That's the real message here. Is that you could,
Probably.
Despots are always defeated by socialism, right? They never spring up from it.
Can Kang be the bad guy? Should it be the High Evolutionary now?
It should be the High Evolutionary. You know what? Here's the nice thing.
Should be a Galactus?
You could replace it should be Doctor Doom, honestly, but I don't want them to do Doctor Doom because I don't have any faith that they're going to handle Doctor Doom any better than they have anybody else in this last phase and a half or whatever, however, it's so exhausting, and I just kind of want it to be done. Like, can we just be done? Is it okay? Couldn't you just have ended it? Can we just let things end sometimes?
Put it on ice for 10 years and bring it back.
And then bring it back as a new version, or a new universe with new actors and a new story. Like, why does everything have to go on continuously? And I know what the answer is. The answer is money and corporate profits. But, when you get to a point where you're just losing money on all these things and you're actually killing the goodwill for the films that made money and the films that people were interested in, what have you really accomplished?
Well, I can tell you this. I like Paul Rudd, and I think he's a great actor. I never want to see Ant-Man in an MCU movie again.
No, and I love Paul Rudd as well. I think he's a national treasure. I would rather see him in Clueless 2 at this point than another Ant-Man and the Wasp sequel. Man,
that ending of this movie blows because Ant-Man and Wasp get stuck in the quantum realm again at the very end. And then, of course, because the daughter is the biggest genius in the history of the world, she just creates another portal to him. So it didn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything. It's in the words of Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force, it don't matter. None of this matters.
Aaron and I did review Thor: Love and Thunder, and I found more to like about that movie than I did this one, although there wasn't much to chew on in that one either. But if you hated that movie or you're just not sure, definitely check out this review from Aaron and I on Thor: Love and Thunder, one of the atrocities in MCU history. There's also a link in the video description.